of awardees.
Good afternoon. It's so great to see you all. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Carla. I want to actually also say thank you to everyone responsible for today's Research Day. Can we give them a round of applause and just stand up and be acknowledged? I also want to congratulate all of the award winners who have already been announced. I want you to know that according to our organizers, these were some of the highest scores for presentation and for the video, not the video, video presentation, but also the boards that were set up. So that was really exciting to hear. So congratulations to all of our folks who submitted and to all of their advisors as well. Let's give them a round of applause. Before I move on to giving out my portion of the awards today, I want to share some reflections about the importance of Princeton Research Day, and in particular, the role that storytelling plays in research. Personally, I love telling stories and I love hearing people tell stories. To me, storytelling is a powerful and nuanced way of communicating. When I'm telling a story, I want to bring the situation alive for the person I'm sharing the story with. I want them to understand the key elements, and maybe also I want them to laugh or to empathize or be called to action or some other response. The best presentations of research are essentially well-told stories. The researcher is telling us the essence and the core of their work so that audiences can understand the meaning and the implications. Sometimes those are specialist audiences, so chemists are talking to an audience of chemists, or anthropologists are talking to an audience of anthropologists. But like today, our researchers are speaking to all of us generalists in the audience. In the room here, we have people from a wide range of academic focus and passions. And so what the Princeton Research Day presenters must do is communicate effectively to a broad audience that looks at their videos or visits their exhibits at the showcase. The 19 winners of today's Princeton Research Day Award may have vastly different topics, but what they have in common is that they are incredibly good storytellers. They have made their research engaging, exciting, and compelling to a generalist audience. They have made us care about the why and the how of the work that they are doing, even if we have not stepped into their dance studio or read their journal articles. Sharing research ideas and research stories at a forum like Princeton Research Day is such a powerful way to bring us all together as a community. Undergraduate students, graduate and postdocs alike, all submit and exchange ideas. I've already been inspired by the research we've heard about thus far, and I hope you have been too. I'm delighted that Campus Life has joined with the other partners in Princeton Research Day to sponsor Princeton Research Day. It's now time for me to shift into presenting the final awards. I'm pleased to announce the final of the 5 outstanding presentation awards of the day. This award goes to the presentations that receive the highest scores among all video submissions. The winners are Vinay Konuru and Kelvin Green. Both are in the undergraduate class of 2024. Their topic is about sustainable energy. Their advisor is Kelsey Hatzel and Jason Wren. And their video is entitled Building Negative Emissions Technology for a Green Economy. Let's watch the video as they join me on stage.
Global energy systems are complex and interwoven. This has made decarbonization one of the most difficult challenges humanity has ever faced. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and Princeton's own Net Zero America project have urged that we need to not only decarbonize our energy production, but actively find ways to remove CO2 directly out of the atmosphere via negative emissions technologies.
But these technologies have proven expensive to scale, and there's no clear use for the CO2 that's captured. In fact, the biggest use of CO2 gas today is in enhanced oil and gas recovery, boosting fossil fuel production. We want to design a better CO2 supply stream by creating cheaper negative emissions technologies and a truly renewable product from CO2. This mission drove us to get to work.
I'm Vinay Konuru.
And I'm Kelvin Green.
And we're working on direct air capture
and microbial electrosynthesis,
otherwise known as DACMES. The goal of direct air capture is to remove CO2 from ambient air. We do this using a chemical called an amine that has a high affinity to CO2. I pack this amine inside my reaction chamber that's secured inside my steel drum. I then run air at a very high flow rate through my steel drum using my inline fan until it becomes saturated. Once saturated, I heat it up with high resistivity wire to release it at a high concentration to then be used to make higher value products.
We can convert this CO2 into value-added products using microbial electrosynthesis. The way that this process works is with an electrochemical cell. That is an anode and a cathode connected by an external circuit. We can feed an organic substrate into the anode chamber, which is then oxidized by the bacteria on the surface of the anode to liberate electrons. These electrons are then transferred to the cathode, where we can electrochemically reduce the CO2 coming from the direct air capture system into acetic acid and other valuable products, using bacteria to mediate the reaction on the surface of the cathode. Acetic acid has a market cap of $20.6 billion and is one of the most valuable chemical precursor chemicals. While early in development, we're excited to be working in this critical and rapidly evolving space that we believe will be essential for mitigating the worst ramifications of climate change.
We think our technology can help drive forward the profitability and sustainability of this technology as it continues to scale over the coming decades. We're really excited to continue our work, and we're hoping we've inspired other students and researchers to get involved in this growing space. We hope you've enjoyed listening. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Oh, yeah, the mic is on. Great. Don't you all just feel a little smarter watching all of this research? It's really interesting. So how did the two of you come to want to work together, and how did you pick up this topic?
Sure. Kelvin and I have been friends for a little while. Last semester, we were the ones organizing the Princeton University Energy Association undergraduate energy conference. We're just very interested in the sustainable energy field and the energy transition. And I'm pretty interested in negative emissions technologies. So I was working on building this direct air capture unit. And one of the big challenges with carbon capture, naturally, is people ask, what do you do with the CO2? You pull it out of there, and then what do you do? And Kelvin was telling me how you were building a system. You want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah, I got interested in microbial electrochemical technologies after a class I taught by Professor Ren, whose lab does a lot of work with microbial and biotechnologies and bioreactors. And so the premise of the system is that you can use it to reduce CO2 into value-added products. And hearing that, I was really interested and started to do research and try to build my own electrochemical cells. But I needed CO2 to electrochemically reduce it into something. And then Vinay was telling me about his project where he's like, I'm creating a bunch of CO2 and I have no use for it, and I don't want it. So it seemed like a natural fit between our projects.
There's just a lot of synergy there.
Absolutely, that's great. What concepts from your research was most difficult to explain to a general audience?
Do you want me to? Okay. Yeah, so I think one of the most complicated things, at least from like what I was working on with microbial electrosynthesis, is that so much of the research is building on past research. So sort of the historical way things evolved, where like you had electrochemical cells, and then some people had an idea of like, let's integrate this with biology. And then you had microbial fuel cells. And then other people were like, no, wait, don't do that. Why don't just like use that to produce hydrogen? So then you had microbial microbial electrolysis cells. And then people are like, well, why make hydrogen? Maybe make something else that's more valuable. And then you had microbial electrosynthesis. And so it's quite hard to distill, like, there's a lot of history behind these technologies. And it's very hard to communicate that, I feel like, in a very succinct manner.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like what we're doing here is we're taking lab mature technologies and we're trying to make deployable technologies that are going to be ready in time to meet the needs of the energy transition in 2050 or by 2050 really. And the challenge with that is we both have to look at all of the prolific amount of work that's been happening over the last 40 years in labs and figure out how do we answer the questions of how do we scale this and do it cheaply and efficiently.
Yeah, that's, let's go there. What do you think your next, for two things? Is this, are we going to keep the band together? Are you guys going to continue to work? Okay, and what do you see as your next steps or the next stage of this research? It's fascinating.
So we're both still working on finishing our individual systems so that we can turn them on and they actually work the way that we want them to. But after that, it comes to actually integrating these systems and coming up with the challenges of that interface between I'm running CO2 into this capturing chamber and he's pulling the CO2 into a different system. There's naturally going to be a lot of engineering challenges that are going to occur at that interface. So next semester through our senior theses and independent works, we're likely going to be answering those questions.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Do we have time for a couple of questions from the audience?
So like, hello, yeah. For this reaction, I was just wondering because you're also like inputting energy for like to reduce carbon dioxide into this useful material. What is like, what's the net cost, or are we like getting like net gain of energy?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to talk, or I can talk about that?
Yeah, I could talk about the direct air capture system because that's probably one of the more energy intensive parts of it because you're blowing this fan really, really fast. You're using all this electricity inside for heating the circuit. So typically it takes about, if you go from you pulling electricity from the US electric grid, for every 1 ton of CO2 that we're able to capture from the air, we'll usually be emitting about 400 kilograms of CO2 by just using electricity off the electric grid that comes from natural gas plants and coal plants and things like that. Naturally, we don't like that number. So we'd either want to be one, pulling from clean electricity sources, or two, we also want to figure out how to make that whole system more energy efficient, which is things that I'll be looking into next semester, like inside my sorbent chamber, inside that tank. Right now, I just have a wall of chemical. I suspect there's better architectures to reduce the amount of energy to push wind, basically air, through that tank.
Kelvin, did you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about it from, I guess, the microbial electrochemical side. So one of the key innovations that people are pretty excited about pursuing in this field is integrating microbial electrochemical technologies with wastewater. Because when you have wastewater and you have a bunch of organics, what's conventionally done now is you use up a bunch of energy to blow oxygen into the wastewater, and so it all gets oxidized by the bacteria. But in an electrochemical cell, the anode is facilitating an oxidation reaction, and the cathode is a reduction reaction. And so if you can couple the two together pretty easy, it makes a lot of sense to say, why not just oxidize the wastewater? This is a thing we need to do anyway. And that liberates electrons for us to use in the cathode chamber. So you end up inputting much less energy than if you were, say, driving the cell just completely, like, with no intent to, like, use the product from the anode. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's terrific. Any other questions?
Thank you both. So I actually have a question in a little bit of a different vein. So I know that there were lots of students interested in presenting at Princeton Research Day that maybe thought they were a little nervous about making a video or telling their research as a story. What advice would you give to students who might want to be where you're sitting next year when they're trying to tell their story through a video?
Neither of us are videographers, as you could pretty obviously tell from that video. We just got together about 2 weeks ago and we were like, we need to make some video that presents what we're working on and be excited when we talk about it. We're both clearly excited about the things that we're building, and we're looking forward to the things that are going to come out of it. And I think that's true with a lot of students on this campus. They're passionate about the stuff that they work on. So the biggest advice I think I would give is to just show that through your presentation. Be clear, but also show that you love what you do.
That was a great question. Thank you. I hope it's encouraged folks who didn't enter this year to enter at the next time. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Very good. Well, thank you both very much. You could tell they really know what they're talking about, right?